Not going to let it happen. Today, I signed an executive order. We're going to keep families together, but the border is going to be just as tough.
Finger pointing and heated words between House Speaker Paul Ryan, House Freedom Caucus Chair Mark Meadows. It appeared to be over immigration.
The president also tearing into FBI lovers Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, who exchanged biased anti-Trump text messages. Senator Lindsey Graham demands answers about what they discussed.
What exactly do you do in a whip meeting? Because it sounds rough.
Did you not tell Ducey that there's a dress code in the U.S. Capitol?
Yeah.
No jeans. What are you doing, man? We're
Let's bring that up.
Is there anything more fun than a Trump rally? Is there, sir?
And we're all American, in God we trust. Just living the dream and never giving up.
Did we take this from our show? Because Clay Walker's been on so much.
He has been.
He could be our house band.
Why not?
I've never really listened to those words. I love that.
I know it.
Hey, welcome everybody. Good to have you here on the Fox and Friends program. It's a little embarrassing that we ran a little clip of Paul Ryan calling me out for a dress code violation in the U.S. Congress.
Right.
You'll see a little of that with the exclusive behind-the-scenes day in the life of Steve Scalise coming up in about 15 minutes.
We're looking forward to that. Are we ready to talk immigration?
I don't know. It hasn't really been on the agenda much.
Let's put it on there.
This is a Fox News alert. There he is, the President of the United States, signing that executive order yesterday to stop family separations at the border. But it seems that is not enough for certain Democrats at this point in the game.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be. All of this as House Republicans get ready to tackle the immigration plan today.
Yeah, also, this is why we're having Judge Napolitano on later. People say he can't do this. Griff Jenkins live from the border in Hidalgo, Texas. Yesterday, Griff got paid but didn't come on the air with us. We're going to get to the bottom of that shortly, Griff. You blame weather.
That's right. It was storms, guys, but it's subsided for the time being. Listen, the backlash from the president's zero tolerance policy and that family separation caused the president to sign the executive order. And here's what he had to say while he did it.
It's about keeping families together while at the same time being sure that we have a very powerful, very strong border, and border security will be equal, if not greater than previously.
So the ball's in Congress's court now. The House, of course, supposed to vote on two bills, the leadership version and the conservative Goodlatte version, but it's not clear either's headed for passage. Chairman of the Freedom Caucus, Mark Meadows, openly fighting with Speaker Ryan, calling the leadership bill not ready for prime time. But Democrats aren't expected to support any of the bills and are lashing out at the president's executive order. This from House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, saying the president's executive order seeks to replace one form of child abuse with another. Instead of protecting traumatized children, the president has directed his attorney general to pave the way for the long-term incarceration of families in prison-like conditions. And Dianne Feinstein, senator from California, saying it's extremely troubling that the president's executive order would require immigrant families with children to be detained indefinitely. The order appears to be the next step in the Trump administration's larger agenda to eliminate basic protections for asylum seekers. And this, here at the Port of Hidalgo, is where people come to legally seek asylum. We'll have a little bit more and take you behind the scenes on that later this morning, guys.
So I guess thanks, Griff. I guess Nancy Pelosi just wants everyone who comes to the border just to get in and get a condo
and stay.
You can't really do that. And my only hope is, I have a lot of hopes, but that's for a different time. But one of my key hopes is that the fact that the president bought time for Congress won't use more time to come up with some type of solution. And they got to put something to a vote, and they can't say, well, the president solved this problem. I want to punt until November. They got to get something done this week.
Well, isn't there going to be a vote today? Paul Ryan said there's going to be a vote today on legislation to allow families to stay together through their legal proceedings.
It's going to be a compromise bill, and you saw those images of, there's a lot going on up on Capitol Hill. You saw those images of Speaker Ryan and Mark Meadows from the House Freedom Caucus pointing their fingers at each other. Apparently, Mr. Meadows was under the impression there were going to be things in the bill that his group, House Freedom Caucus, liked, and as it turns out, took a look at it, None of that stuff's there. The compromise bill today, apparently, and that's some of the imagery right there, where you got Mark Meadows on the left and Paul Ryan on the right. The compromise bill today would stop separating families at the border. It would give a path to dreamers for citizenship, and there would be $25 billion ultimately for the wall. Certain conservatives feel that it's amnesty, and then others say that they are uneasy with the fact that if a dreamer is granted status, they would then be able to sponsor their parent as a citizen. So those are some of the sticking points that they're working behind the scenes.
And there might even be a third offer that they might be putting forward, but one is calling it the Goodlatte bill. The other, they wanted just to stop the confusion, and they wanted to name it the president's the bill.
Because it's the wall.
Yeah, and because it has a wall, and it's somewhat of a compromise. I think it was mislabeled. Some people said moderate, and it kind of set the president off on Friday. Said I'm not for it, confused everyone. But I thought this was kind of disturbing. One source said a few members who were a hard yes after they saw that fight between Meadows and Ryan on the immigration legislature are now squirming after seeing that confrontation. Guys, you got to get it out of the House, and it's got to be a compromise. You can't get everything you want and then put it in the Senate where the fight will really be an uphill battle, but at least they'd have a shot with so many red states with Democratic senators.
If you put too much in the bill, you're saying it's not going to pass, because if you start putting in chain migration, the lottery system, not everyone agrees on that, but this is about the families and not separating the families.
Well, it's a compromise bill. There's a whole bunch of stuff in it, but apparently there are certain core principles that certain members simply, it's too far for them. That's one of the reasons why yesterday, apparently, Steve Scalise gave the White House a list of certain members that the White House should call and have them come over, and they did. And so there's a full court press on Capitol Hill to try to get to 218. Right now, it does not look like they're there.
And by the way, what are we not hearing? A Democratic proposal. No, there's not one offer. Just put up the most radical plan possible.
Chuck Schumer doesn't want to do it. He says no legislation. This is the president's problem. Then the president signs that executive order yesterday, and they're still up in arms. Meanwhile, the president, he went to Minnesota yesterday in Duluth at a rally. He was there touting his string of White House victories. Listen to this.
As your president, I will always fight to protect American families. The Democrats want open borders. Let everybody come in. We're not going to let it happen. I signed an executive order. We're going to keep families together, but the border is going to be just as tough as it's been. The greatest phrase, I think, in the history of politics, make America great again, and that's exactly what we're doing. Unemployment numbers are among the best in the history of our country. We just secured a record $700 billion in funding to rebuild our military. We've cut more regulations in 500 days than any president. By the way, is there anything more fun than a Trump rally?
And it was a big rally, too. In fact, they had originally booked one venue, an arena, and apparently there were so many other people they had to get a bigger place. Keep in mind, Duluth is part of the 8th District of Minnesota, which is home to the Iron Range of steel. And so the president's tariffs on steel are very popular in that part.
And he always said that he goes, my only regret was I didn't go back to Minnesota more. I didn't know how close we were. And if he's going to win Minnesota next time, which he referred to 3 times last night, he says he's going to max out the vote amongst those that showed up late yesterday. And they did something else that was kind of unique. He stopped and he said, can you show the crowd? And we got a chance to see the crowd, but we never saw the amount of people outside that didn't get in.
Hillary, look, there's the crowd. Hillary won by a narrow margin in Minnesota, and he said, I think I'm going to win in 2020, so we'll see.
Hey, Peter Fonda's still alive. How do I know? He had an offensive tweet like you would not believe, and I guess he's in a movie coming up.
He's an actor. He's in his 70s. He's Jane Fonda's brother. Is that right?
Right. He was the Easy Rider star. He tweeted this out yesterday. Quote, we should rip Barron Trump, that's the president's son, from his mother's arms and put him in a cage with pedophiles and see if mother will stand up against the giant A word she is married to. 90 million people in the streets on the same weekend in the country. And then another inappropriate word. He has since deleted the tweet. He has since apologized. Melania's spokesperson said it was sick and irresponsible. And Melania Trump called the Secret Service and said, take a look at this. Is this appropriate? And they are now investigating him.
They gotta. And by the way, so he apologized since. He's got a movie coming out, I guess you might want to see it. It's from Sony. But Don Jr. speculated, or just paraphrased on Twitter, he goes, what is Sony going to do? Are you going to leave him in this movie? Are you still going to put out that movie? Are you going to rebuke Peter Fonda for what he just said about the president's son?
I read the statement from Sony. They said his comments were vile, abhorrent, but he has a very small part in it, and we are going to release it apparently tomorrow at 5 theaters.
Well, you're only going to hear the story on Fox because ABC, NBC, and CBS, zero coverage of this story. When I read what he said, I thought, who even thinks like that?
You know
who
what?
has the capacity to say
So
something
many
like that?
celebrities
And
are over
imagine
the
if
top.
an actor said that about President Obama's girls.
In his earlier tweets, he said we should hack the system, get the addresses of ICE agents, surround their homes, find out what schools their kids go to, and surround the schools as well.
All right. Here is Rush Limbaugh when this crossed.
The drive-by media is especially unhinged. This today is not about kids and the way they're being treated anywhere. This is about Donald Trump winning and these people not being able to do anything about it. So hate is governing, fueling everything that is occurring in what we call the news media today. Virtually every news story today has a component driving it, which is hate. And it is hate for victors, hate for the successful, hate for Donald Trump.
I've never seen anything like it, and I can't use the use of expletives on a regular basis. It's like when you're in 4th grade and you first learn to curse and you think it's funny. I'm just stunned by when you go on Twitter or social media, people feel totally comfortable doing it out loud and in public.
Please let us know what you think about this. Meanwhile, we're going to hand it over to Jill. You know, has some more headlines for us.
That's right. Good morning to you guys, to you at home as well. Happy first official day of summer.
That's right.
Yeah.
We do have some news, though, to get you caught up on now, starting with this, and a serious story. 2 sheriff's deputies who made the ultimate sacrifice will be laid to rest today. Teresa King and Patrick Rohr were shot and killed as they brought an inmate to court in Kansas. Officers from around the country are expected at their joint funeral, but they won't be the only superheroes there. Dozens of people will dress up in costume, honoring Rohr's love of comics. The deputies both leave children behind. Millions of people are under the threat of severe weather as flash flooding wreaks havoc in Pennsylvania.
Oh my God, dude. I cannot even believe this right now.
Incredible video showing a car being swept away outside Pittsburgh. In the Midwest, tornadoes touching down. Several twisters reported in Iowa. More storms are on the way today. Just call it shrinking the swamp. President Trump may soon make a move to reorganize our government. The Wall Street Journal reporting the administration will propose today to merge the labor and education departments. If approved by Congress, it would be a step toward the effort to decrease the federal workforce. Republicans first suggested a merger in the 90s. Let's look at your headlines. I'll send it back to you.
One step closer.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very much,
Joey.
Jill. All right. Coming up, our next guest is running for Congress in Minnesota and joined President Trump on his stage at the big rally last night. He's going to tell us about the experience coming up next.
And the pastor who stopped an armed carjacker at that Walmart is speaking out for the first time.
He entered the vehicle, which I considered an even bigger threat, and I fired to stop the shooter. Thanks, it's my job.
He's going to win. We're going to keep on winning. We're going to win so much. Remember, we're going to win.
Well, President Trump holding a massive rally in Minnesota, praising our next guest who hopes to win the Republican nomination for the state's 8th district. Hey, President Obama won it twice. Won that district twice. Can they reverse course now? Because President Trump won it easily by 16 points in 2016. Joining us now, Minnesota congressional candidate and St. Louis County Commissioner Pete Stauber, who was a police officer and a minor league hockey player. So, Pete, you grabbed the microphone, you surprised the president, you whipped open a speech. How did you pull that off, breaking format?
Well, good morning, Brian. Thanks for having us. It was really an interesting day for not only the campaign and the candidate, but to have the president come to our great state of Minnesota in the 8th Congressional District and really support our way of life, support our miners and our timber and timber producers. We were very excited, and the rally was just unbelievable.
When you hear about labor, a big labor area, traditionally over the last couple of decades, that means big Democrat area. But there's something about this president, a Republican, that seems to resonate in the blue-collar communities. Can you tell me what Minnesota has seen so far that garnered that type of support?
Well, you know, we are a blue-collar community, and President Trump won our district just under 16%. So when we look at that, the district is changing. I have Democratic mayors on our Iron Range that have come out and supported me. You know, up here in the 8th District, they're taking the labels off the candidates and looking at what the candidate has done, what we will do for our jobs, what we will support our military, support our law enforcement, support the timber producers. And so when you take the labels off the candidate, and they look at my resume, what I have done, and I'm living and have lived my message, Brian.
Yeah, you had a Congressman Nolan who's been there for a while, but now it's an open seat. If the House is going to hold for Republicans, the reason why the president's there, obviously it's a salute to you, but it's also a seat Republicans need. What do you need to do, being that you just entered the race?
Well, you know, as I stated, this is the top pickup for the Republicans in the entire country, and it's going to turn in November. The entire state of Minnesota is changing, and you know, you talk about the unions. I not only organized my union, but I was my union's president as a police officer. So that resonates with people, and you know, that blue-collar, common-sense, conservative message resonates in the 8th District of Minnesota. And as our campaign continues, Brian, we're working hard, meeting as many people as we can.
And as you know, politics has become a contact sport, but it's a contact sport you're used to, being that you have a rich hockey background. Pete Starbert, thanks so much. You seemed very natural in front of a huge audience last night, surprising the president with a speech that I don't think he was prepared for you to make, but I think he was well in support. Pete Starbert, thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian.
All right, coming up straight ahead, we all remember Steve Scalise's triumphant return to the field in the congressional baseball game, but what is life like for him on Capitol Hill?
When you pass a big bill, get something really big done, you know, we pop a bottle of champagne. My team works really hard.
There's the tax cut.
Steve Doocy spent a big day with Steve Scalise. He'll give you the play-by-play.
This program is brought to you by...
Here's some quick headlines for you. The Supreme Court will consider an appeal today linked to the Netflix docuseries Making a Murderer. Brendan Dassey's legal team wants the court to reverse a lower court's decision that ruled his confession to helping his Uncle Stephen Avery murder a Wisconsin woman voluntary. Lawyers say investigators took advantage of Dassey's age and his disabilities to coerce him. He was 16 at the time. And do you remember the former NAACP leader who made national headlines for lying about her race?
Are you African American?
I don't understand the question.
Rachel Dolezal now identifies herself. She has a new name, Nkachi Diallo, and she appeared in a Washington state courtroom pleading not guilty to welfare fraud. She could face 15 years behind bars. I think she was making a lot of money and didn't claim it from maybe a book that she released.
Okay. Meanwhile, Brian.
Okay. All right. We saw Majority Whip Steve Scalise make his triumphant return to the baseball field after getting shot 1 year ago last week before the congressional baseball game.
We are underway. A ground ball to second, and Scalise throws him out at first. From his knees, the entire infield, the entire field goes over to congratulate him.
There wasn't a dry eye in the place.
I mean, if you don't believe in miracles and that God has a piece of this action, I mean, that was just unreal. Unreal. how much difference a year makes, huh?
Wow, that's great. But what we didn't see was how he spends his day as the House Majority Whip.
Well, 1 week ago today, I spent the day with him and got an exclusive behind-the-scenes look. Let's go back to Capitol Hill.
All right, you ready? Go to our whip team meeting. This is Deputy Whip right here.
What exactly do you do in a whip meeting? Because it sounds rough.
The whip team is about 80 members. of the House that help us move our agenda forward, all Republicans. You're helping educate members about what is in the bill and why it's important to get this bill on President Trump's desk so we can actually get the economy back on track and advance the agenda.
Did you not tell Ducey that there's a dress code in the U.S. Capitol?
Yeah.
No jeans. What are you doing, man? Wearing jeans.
Bring that up.
We have dress code
There's
enforced
no
around
order
here.
around this place. Let's get in here.
All
Come
right,
on.
go to your meeting.
Welcome, everybody. We have a special guest, as you can see. The Speaker of the House is joining us. Welcome, Steve Ducey. And a little earlier, about 2 hours ago, he was in a baseball uniform cracking some balls out of National Park.
Every single one of us, along with our fellow countrymen, we're praying for Steve Scalise. Our prayers have been answered.
When I was gone for 3.5 months, this House still moved our business, and it moved it in a large part because of all of you. There's been a lot of work in negotiations to get an agreement amongst Republicans in the House on how to get a bill that President Trump signs on immigration. Well, tell us about immigration.
All right, get out of here.
This is my office.
It seems nice.
Office of the Majority Whip. View I've got down the mall is just probably the best view in the Capitol.
It's stunning. When you have a big day, it's not just a big day for America, but it's a big day for you personally. And so you memorialize things with a bottle of champagne. There's the tax cut.
When we passed that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it was a monumental occasion. You pop a bottle of champagne and you stop and celebrate all the hard work that went into getting something big done.
Paul Ryan gave you this gavel.
Yeah, I tell you what, this was a special day. The day that I came back to Congress, September of last year, after 3.5 months in a hospital, working really hard to rehabilitate, learn how to walk again, so I could be able to walk into that House chamber again and just see my colleagues and get back to work. It was one of the most special days of my life.
And I see the New Orleans logos.
New Orleans Saints jersey. My alma mater gave me my own real LSU jersey, and I thought that was really cool. When people come and you're meeting with people, we take pictures, and we always come over here and make them take the picture in front of the LSU jersey.
How do you balance representing Louisiana and running your side?
I'm a conservative. I came up to Congress to help try to get this country back on track. As a member of leadership, you actually get to be in the room for a lot more of the decisions. My primary job is to represent the people of Southeast Louisiana. But then I also, of course, want to help make this a better country and fix the problems that we have.
You have had a full day. You've had your staff in here, you had the speaker in here. Where's this energy coming from? I'm pooped.
I love my job. I mean, it's an honor to represent the people of Southeast Louisiana, but then to be able to work with this president and to know that what we're doing is going to help change this country for the better and solve problems and help people have more opportunity. That pumps me up. When you love what you're doing, every day is a great day.
From sun up to sundown, he was working. And a week ago tonight, he played in the game after having donated a quart of blood, a pint of blood, a bottle of blood.
Seems like such a great guy.
And that meeting that we saw the speaker at, where the speaker said, "Okay, you can go now," Fox News, that was the meeting where they worked to whip up the members to vote on today's immigration
plan.
Yeah.
Wow, great
He's
job.
from Louisiana, has a wife, 2 children.
And just keep in mind, it was a little more than a year ago. He came that close to not making it out.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Welcome back, Steve Scalise.
The power of prayer.
Indeed.
All right, meanwhile, 30 minutes before the top of the hour, she lied about the Benghazi attacks on 5 different Sunday shows. But now there's a brand new bombshell this morning involving Susan Rice.
Plus, what do voters think of the president's rally last night in Minnesota? Todd Pyro's having breakfast with friends in Duluth, Minnesota, and that's coming up next.
Red, white, and blue crew. Meanwhile, happy birthday to Prince William. He has 36 candles on his cake today.
And we'll never be royal. It's a run in our blood. That kind of luck's just ain't for us. We crave a different kind of buzz. Let me be your ruler. You can call me Queen Bee.
This program.
We talk about the forgotten men and women. They're the smartest people. They work the hardest. They pay taxes. They do all of the things. And yet they were the forgotten people. And believe me, our people are the smartest and the hardest working. Smarter than anybody and the hardest working. A little thing I was talking about today. You ever notice they always call the other side, and they do this up, the elite. The elite. Why are they elite?
I have a much better apartment than they do. I'm smarter than they are. I'm richer than they are. I became president and they didn't. And I'm representing the greatest, smartest, most loyal, best people on earth, the deplorables.
There you have the President of the United States last night in Duluth addressing the deplorables.
You would think that that message wouldn't necessarily be the right message, according to the experts, to a
You mean the elites?
To a working class community. When he goes, look, I'm richer, I'm better, I'm smarter, and I'm president, you're not. But something about his message resonates better with them than it does with the rich.
Because he's tough and he's saying a lot of the things that
Right.
they're thinking and they don't feel like they were able to say it before. Todd Pyro is live at Uncle Louie's Cafe in Duluth, Minnesota, talking to the people there where the president was last night.
Good morning, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian. And you saw the packed house last night about a mile away from here, from Uncle Louie's Cafe. Well, we have a packed house here at Uncle Louie's Cafe talking about, obviously, a lot of big issues of the day. We're going to get right to it. We're going to begin with Bob. Bob works in IT. He voted for President Trump, and he says he thinks the president is doing an even better job than he thought he would when he voted for him. Why?
Well, it's about jobs. He's taken the restraints off some of our largest employers. We have people working. That means more tax revenues. Tax cuts have been beneficial. There's competition for jobs, the economy, with the GDP up. Competition on jobs means higher wages for people. It's nothing but positive ahead.
Well, when I asked you what the most important issue is to you and your family, you said it's not about me, it's about my 8 grandchildren. Why do you say that?
It's about opportunity for my 8 grandchildren. What will they have in the future? And we're seeing employers come back to the country for greater opportunities. I would like to see them stay in the area. In our region, we've had an exodus of children over the years. And as a grandparent, there's nothing better than having your family at home.
Thank you very much, Bob. Marshall is a retired union rep, and he is not a fan of the president. I want to ask you about the economy. Your view on the economy is split. Why?
Well, I'm very happy to see the economy continue to grow through the Obama years and now with President Trump. However, the tax cut that was recently enacted, which was touted as being wonderful for working people, as we know, it's gone mostly into the corporate end of things, and what they've done is done huge stock buybacks, which has pumped up the stock prices for the ownership class, and very little has come down to workers.
But you would agree that generally people, in your estimation, are feeling pretty good right now?
As the economy continues to expand, yes.
Marshall.
But I would also credit Barack Obama for a good part of that.
Understood. Marshall, thank you for your perspective. I'm going to sneak over here to Caitlin. Caitlin, a very interesting perspective. You said Trump rallies, the one that you attended last night, they are a beacon of free speech. Why do you say that?
Well, especially coming from Minnesota, you know, we haven't voted a Republican majority since Nixon, and leading up to the election, I think a lot of us are scared to speak our minds. Being at the rally, being able to see other people with like-mindedness like us, we can finally say what we want and not be afraid of any repercussions.
So in the past, you have felt repercussions?
Oh, absolutely. You know, we're the deplorables, you know, and being in Minnesota, we're typically a Democrat state, and you just, there's that fear.
You know this area. President Trump has stated he wants to turn this area red. Knowing the area as well as you do you think he will?
I think you will. I think you will. It's going to be exciting.
Appreciate your time. By the way, I forgot to mention she is a nurse. We appreciate all of our nurses because they do amazing work in our hospitals and in our doctors' offices. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Again, guys, this place is packed. No shortage of opinions. We're going to check back in about an hour.
And the food looks great, and suddenly I'm hungry again.
It's
all
great.
right, Todd, thank you very much.
Tell them why we said hey, Todd.
Just overall, I was stunned to see that they're now making projections that our economy overall could be growing at 5%. People didn't think it was going to hit 3%, and it could be heading out 3% for the entire year. So 4% would have been outstanding. Can you imagine if they come in with that number?
That would be a big number, and that would be a big story. Stay tuned.
Haven't seen that in a long time.
All right, Jillian is over there. She has some headlines for us.
That's
Hello.
right. Good Thursday morning to you. Let's get you caught up on some of these stories that we're following. Beginning here, a hero pastor is speaking out after taking down a gunman in a Walmart parking lot. David George shooting and killing Tim Day as he attempted to carjack several people.
He entered the vehicle, which I considered an even bigger threat, and I fired to stop the shooter. Thanks, it's my job.
If it wasn't for him, who knows where he would have wound up and how many people he killed.
Wow. George, who's also a paramedic, also helped save a man who was shot. He will not face charges. Former President Barack Obama's cyber chief confirming that he was told to stand down in response to Russian meddling.
But as far as your cyber response, you were told to stand down. Is that correct?
We were, those actions were put on the back burner, yes.
That order coming directly from then National Security Advisor Susan Rice. Michael Daniel said he recommended a full range of actions to, quote, impose costs on the Russians, but those offers weren't accepted. This is a reminder to always keep your car doors locked. A California deputy seen breaking into a car window to free a bear that got stuck inside. I feel like this happens all the time. Now just watch as he busts the glass open, hops back in to let the animal out. Unfortunately, the inside of the car totally destroyed. That's not fun. I hate when that happens. Yes, I agree, Brian. Okay, want to live longer? Here's the secret.
We fell in love in high school.
Yeah, we were high school sweethearts.
But then after our junior year, his parents moved away.
But I never forgot her.
You never forgot me.
A new study revealing married couples have a lower risk of heart disease and stroke. Researchers believe living with another person can help spot health problems much earlier. Let's look at your headlines.
Right, and if you're getting along, they'll help you out, and they'll say there's something wrong. But if you're not getting along, they might not point out.
Yeah, then it causes more heart problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, it is 18 minutes before the top of the hour. Janice Dean joins us, and Janice, this hour we turn to summer.
Right, and you live with somebody, right, Janice?
Yes, of course I do. I live with my husband Sean and my 2 children. By the way, that video, those were actors, so of course they're going to get along.
Yes, that's a good point.
You know what, Les? We've got some amazing video. This is out of New Hampshire, New England. This is called a fire rainbow, and what happens is the light reflects off of the ice crystals in the atmosphere. Isn't that cool? A lot of people were taking this picture. Fire rainbow. This is real. This is a real phenomenon. This is in New England, in New Hampshire.
Wow, pretty.
So it's very rare that you see that. Let's take a look at your storm reports because we had some hail and some damaging winds as well as tornadoes yesterday across the Plain States. Heavy rainfall in the forecast across the Ohio River Valley, parts of the Great Lakes, and the Mid-Atlantic. Again, because we have this stationary front, we're also dealing with, unfortunately, the threat for more rain for Texas and Louisiana. And yes, summer is finally here, my friends. First day arrived, just moments ago.
It did this hour. All right. Thank you very much, JD.
It's the one day we have more sunshine on this day than any other day.
15 hours, I believe.
When is summer solstice?
Now.
It's right now.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
This hour.
On the Fox News channel.
All right.
I feel it.
It's 42 minutes after the top of the hour. Liberals want universal health care in the United States, but this cancer patient was forced to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars because his government wouldn't pay for a life-saving drug. Is this really what the left has in mind?
And the ink is barely dry on President Trump's executive order that he is about to sign in these images, but the media says it could be stopped in court. Judge Napolitano here to set the record straight. He's next on Fox and Friends for the first day of summer.
Hey, Judge. How you doing?
Summer.
Pour me some moonshine. When I'm gone, put it in stone. He left nothing.
We're back, and I'm going to read. President Trump signing an executive order allowing children to stay with parents caught crossing the border illegally.
But some are already claiming his decision might not hold up in court.
Here to explain, Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. Okay, so Judge, essentially the executive order asked the Attorney General to get the original judge in the case that said you couldn't do this to change her mind.
All right, so the president is correct that the immigration laws are not only confusing, but in some cases contradictory. One statute says 72 hours, another statute says 20 days. This was supposedly resolved in 1997 in a case called Flores, F-L-O-R-E-S, before the Supreme Court of the United States. In 2013, in the Obama administration, there was a challenge to the Flores rule in which people who felt the Obama administration was keeping children either away from their parents or in substandard facilities.
For more than 20 days.
For more than 20 days, went to a judge and said, put a stop to it. And she did put a stop to it.
And in putting a stop to it, she said, you want to keep them more than 20 days, hold a hearing. Now, fast forward to today, the president's saying we don't have enough facilities or judges to hold a hearing. Well, if they want to restrain people against their will, even people whose behavior is obviously unlawful, I'm talking about the adults now, and these adults are accompanied by children, they have to hold these hearings within 20 days, meaning they're going to have to get judges from New York and New Jersey and North Dakota down to...
So it's a manpower facility.
Correct, correct. And the court will say, look, you're the federal government. You have limitless resources. Get these judges here and get it done. Unless, one last part to this, they can get this judge to extend the 20-day period to give them a little bit more time, during which the parents will be confined with their children.
When does the clock start ticking for the 20 days?
That's not clear. It either starts clicking from the time the children are first restrained or the time they are reunited with their parents, which I don't believe has happened yet. You got to give DHS a little time to implement the president's order. I was hoping they could implement it with a phone call.
Judge, how did President Obama handle this?
President Obama colossally lost this case before Judge G. And President Obama was found, his DHS, was found to be holding these children in woefully substandard facilities.
I don't remember that news story.
It was not publicized the way this one was, but in facilities that was harmful to their health and safety. Not government facilities, but outside facilities that the government had sent these children to. That's what Judge G's ruling essentially is. You cannot hold them in facilities that are harmful to them.
So the ball is really, literally in her court.
What if the facilities now aren't harmful to the children?
You still can't hold them more than 20 days. So the answer is hold a hearing. Once you hold the hearing and a judge rules, you stay until we prosecute you. You go back to the country from which you came. So the president's off the hook.
So the president have to have another executive order to flood the area with judges?
He could do it with a phone call. Remember, these are not judges that sit in federal courthouses. These are administrative law judges that work for DHS.
Gotcha.
So Secretary Nielsen could do this with a phone call. She's going to take them from states where they're needed, but you have an emergency at the border, and this is the time to increase the manpower there.
For every action, there's a reaction.
I hope this makes sense, Brian Kilmeade.
Yeah. No, for me, I even pick it up, but it's nothing solved. You're laying out the challenges.
It is a tremendous challenge. You could see the frustration on his face last night in Minnesota as he was explaining it. The challenge is almost overwhelming.
Well, Marco Rubio's bill, the new bill, hires more judges to speed up the process.
That bill and the Ted Cruz bill would reduce the 20 days to 72 hours, but it would give them the manpower, the judicial manpower with which to accomplish that.
Let's see what happens. All right, Judge, thank you very much.
Thanks for going to law school.
No, you're welcome. Right now I'm off to D.C. for Brett Baer and those.
Oh, we're going to see you on the panel. He's going to play the role of Judge Napolitano. You know, liberals want universal health care in the U.S., but this cancer patient was forced to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars because his government wouldn't pay for a life-saving drug. Is this really what many in this country had in mind? We're back, and I'm going to read. President Trump signing an executive order allowing children to stay with parents caught crossing the border illegally.
But some are already claiming his decision might not hold up in court.
Here to explain, Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. Okay, so Judge, essentially the executive order asked the Attorney General to get the original judge in the case that said you couldn't do this to change her mind.
All right, so the president is correct that the immigration laws are not only confusing, but in some cases contradictory. One statute says 72 hours, another statute says 20 days. This was supposedly resolved in 1997 in a case called Flores, F-L-O-R-E-S, before the Supreme Court of the United States. In 2013, in the Obama administration, there was a challenge to the Flores rule in which people who felt the Obama administration was keeping children either away from their parents or in substandard facilities.
For more than 20 days.
For more than 20 days, went to a judge and said, put a stop to it. And she did put a stop to it. And in putting a stop to it, she said, you want to keep them more than 20 days, hold a hearing. Now, fast forward to today, the president's saying we don't have enough facilities or judges to hold a hearing. Well, if they want to restrain people against their will, even people whose behavior is obviously unlawful. I'm talking about the adults now. And these adults are accompanied by children. They have to hold these hearings within 20 days, meaning they're going to have to get judges from New York and New Jersey and North Dakota down to...
So it's a manpower facility.
Correct, correct. And the court will say, look, you're the federal government. You have limitless resources. Get these judges here and get it done. Unless, one last part to this, they can get this judge to extend the 20-day period to give them a little bit more time, during which the parents will be confined with their children.
When does the clock start ticking for the 20 days?
That's not clear. It either starts clicking from the time the children are first restrained or the time they are reunited with their parents, which I don't believe has happened yet. You got to give DHS a little time to implement the president's order. I was hoping they could implement it with a phone call.
Judge, how did President Obama handle this?
President Obama colossally lost this case before Judge G. And President Obama was found, his DHS was found to be holding these children in woefully substandard facilities.
I don't remember that news story.
It was not publicized the way this one was, but in facilities that was harmful to their health and safety. Not government facilities, but outside facilities that the government had sent these children to. That's what Judge G's ruling essentially is. You cannot hold them in facilities that are harmful to them.
So the ball is really, literally in her court.
What if the facilities now aren't harmful to the children?
You still can't hold them more than 20 days. So the answer is hold a hearing. Once you hold the hearing and a judge rules, you stay until we prosecute you. You go back to the country from which you came. So the president's off the hook.
So the president have to have another executive order to flood the area with judges?
He could do it with a phone call. Remember, these are not judges that sit in federal courthouses. These are administrative law judges that work for DHS.
Gotcha.
So Secretary Nielsen could do this with a phone call. She's going to take them from states where they're needed, but you have an emergency at the border, and this is the time to increase the manpower there.
For every action, there's a reaction.
I hope this makes sense, Brian Kilmeade.
No, for me, I even pick it up, but it's nothing soft. You're laying out the challenges.
It is a tremendous challenge. You could see the frustration on his face last night in Minnesota as he was explaining it. The challenge is almost overwhelming.
Well, Marco Rubio's bill, the new bill, hires more judges to speed up the process.
That bill and the Ted Cruz bill would reduce the 20 days to 72 hours, but it would give them the manpower, the judicial manpower with which to accomplish that.
Let's see what happens. All right, Judge, thank you very much.
Thanks for going to law school.
You're welcome. Right now I'm off to D.C. for Brett Baer and those.
We're going to see you on the panel. He's going to play the role of Judge Napolitano. You know, liberals want universal health care in the U.S., but this cancer patient was forced to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars because his government wouldn't pay for a life-saving drug. Is this really what many in this country had in mind?